I never imagined my life would unravel in a courtroom on a Tuesday morning in October. The room smelled of old wood and floor polish, that distinctive scent of institutional buildings that have seen too many broken families pass through their doors. I sat in a hard wooden chair, hands folded in my lap, trying to process the words coming from Sarah Mitchell's mouth. Words that painted me as a stranger I didn't recognize. My name is Michael Hayes. I'm 38 years old, and until 6 months ago, I thought I understood my life. I'd been married to Jessica for 12 years. We had a 7-year-old daughter named Emma, who was supposed to be in school right now, not sitting in a courtroom watching her parents' marriage get dissected by lawyers. Mr. Hayes regularly worked 65 to 70 hours per week, Sarah Mitchell said, her voice carrying that practiced sympathy lawyers use when they're building a case. He prioritized his career over his family, leaving Mrs. Hayes to essentially function as a single parent. I wanted to object, to stand up and explain that every extra hour at the office was for them, for Emma's dance lessons, for the house with the big backyard, for Jessica's boutique. But sitting there, watching Jessica nod along with every accusation, I started to doubt myself. Maybe I'd been absent. Maybe I had let work consume me in ways I hadn't realized. Jessica sat across the aisle with her attorney, wearing a navy dress I'd never seen before. She looked different somehow, not just the new hairstyle or the subtle makeup, but something in her posture. She seemed relieved, almost eager for this to be over. When she finally met my eyes, there was something calculating in her expression that I couldn't quite identify. Not sadness, not regret, but something colder. Emma sat in the gallery between us, clutching the worn stuffed elephant she'd had since she was 3. She was too young to be here, too young to understand the legal terminology being thrown around. But she watched everything with those serious brown eyes, occasionally glancing from her mother to me with an expression that seemed far too knowing for a 7-year-old. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have possibly known, was that my daughter had been carrying a secret for months, a secret that would turn this courtroom upside down and reveal truths I was too blind to see. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand what happened that October morning, you need to know how we got here. I should have known something was wrong the night I came home early from a business trip to Cleveland. It was a Thursday in April, around 7 p.m. I'd wrapped up meetings faster than expected and caught an earlier flight, eager to surprise Jessica and Emma. The house was lit up when I pulled into the driveway, and I remember feeling that warm anticipation of coming home to the people you love. I used my key quietly, planning to surprise them. But as I stepped into the foyer, I heard Jessica's voice from the kitchen, soft, almost intimate, in a way I hadn't heard her speak in months. I know, it's complicated," she was saying, "but we need to be careful about timing." I walked toward the kitchen, my footsteps apparently loud enough to announce my arrival. Jessica's head snapped up, phone pressed to her ear, and for just a second, I saw something flash across her face. Panic? Guilt? But it was gone so quickly I thought I'd imagined it. "Oh, hey, I didn't hear you come in," she said, her voice suddenly bright and cheerful. She spoke into the phone. "I'll call you back later. We can finalize those details tomorrow." She ended the call and set the phone face down on the counter. "Who was that?" I asked, setting down my briefcase. "Just Blake. We're thinking about expanding the boutique, maybe opening a second location." She moved toward me, giving me a quick kiss on the cheek. "How was Cleveland?" "Fine, boring." I loosened my tie, studying her face. "A second location? That's exciting." "Yeah, we'll see how it goes." She turned away, busying herself with dishes that were already clean. "Emma's upstairs doing homework. She'll be excited you're home early." Something felt off, but I couldn't put my finger on what. Jessica seemed nervous, distracted, but I was tired from 3 days of client meetings and presentations. I told myself I was reading too much into a simple phone call about business. "Daddy!" Emma's voice called from upstairs. I heard her footsteps thundering down the stairs, and then she crashed into me, wrapping her arms around my waist. "Hey, pumpkin." I scooped her up, even though she was getting too big for it. "How's my favorite second grader?" "Good. We learned about butterflies today." "Did you know some of them migrate thousands of miles?" Her eyes were bright with excitement. "I did not know that. Tell me more." She launched into an enthusiastic explanation of monarch butterfly migration patterns, and I felt that familiar warmth of being home. This was what mattered, these moments with my daughter. But even as Emma talked, I noticed she kept glancing at her mother with an expression I couldn't quite read. Worry? Confusion? "Emma, honey, let Daddy get settled," Jessica said, her voice just slightly too sharp. "He's tired from traveling." "It's okay," I said quickly. "I want to hear about the butterflies." But Emma had already pulled away, her enthusiasm dimming. "That's okay, Daddy. I have more homework anyway." I watched her trudge back upstairs, feeling like I'd missed something important in the exchange. When I turned back to Jessica, she was staring at her phone again. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Fine," she said without looking up. "Just boutique stuff. Blake's really pushing this expansion idea." Blake Richardson, Jessica's business partner. I'd met him a handful of times. Charming guy, maybe a few years older than me, recently separated from his wife. He'd invested in the boutique about a year ago when Jessica needed capital to upgrade inventory. "Is that a good idea right now?" I asked. "Financially, I mean." Jessica's jaw tightened. "It's my business, Michael. I think I know what's viable." "I didn't mean I'm just asking." "I know what you're asking." She turned to face me, arms crossed. "You're asking if I can handle it, if I'm making a smart decision. You always do this." "Do what?" "Question my judgment, like I'm not capable of running a business without your input." The argument came out of nowhere, or so I thought at the time. We stood in the kitchen, the air suddenly thick with tension I didn't understand. I'd only asked a simple question. "Jessica, I know what you were doing." She grabbed her phone and headed toward the stairs. "I have some emails to send. Can you make sure Emma finishes her homework?" She was gone before I could respond, leaving me standing alone in the kitchen, confused and vaguely guilty about something I couldn't quite identify. I should have pushed harder. Should have insisted we talk about whatever was clearly bothering her. But I did what I always did. I avoided the conflict and threw myself into work emails on my laptop. That was my first mistake. It wouldn't be my last. By June, the distance between Jessica and me had grown into something almost tangible. We existed in the same house like polite roommates, coordinating schedules and discussing Emma's needs, but rarely connecting on anything deeper. It was a Saturday afternoon when I really started to notice the change in Emma. I was helping her with math homework at the kitchen table, fractions, which she found frustrating. Jessica had gone to the boutique, claiming she needed to reorganize inventory. She'd been spending more and more weekends there. "Daddy," Emma said, setting down her pencil, "what does unhappy look like?" I glanced up from the worksheet. "That's a pretty big question, sweetheart. Why do you ask?" She shrugged, tracing patterns on the table with her finger. "We're learning about feelings at school. Mrs. Cooper says everyone shows feelings differently." That's true. Some people cry when they're sad. Some people get quiet. Some people smile even when they're not happy. Can you smile and be unhappy at the same time? Her brown eyes were serious, searching my face. "Sometimes people do that, yes. Why? Are you feeling unhappy about something?" "Not me." She went back to her math problem, but something in her tone made me pause. "Mommy looks unhappy a lot, even when she smiles." A knot formed in my stomach. "What makes you think that?" "I don't know, her eyes look sad, and she talks on the phone in her room with the door closed. She didn't used to do that." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to brush it off as a child's overactive imagination, but another part of me recognized the truth in what Emma was observing. "Sometimes grown-ups have a lot on their minds," I said carefully. "Mommy's busy with work. That can be stressful." "Is she mad at you?" "Why would you think that?" "Because she doesn't look at you the same way anymore." Emma picked up her pencil again, focusing intently on the fraction problem. "It's okay, Daddy. I just wanted to know if I was noticing right." "Noticing right?" She opened her backpack and pulled out a small sketchbook I hadn't seen before. I started drawing pictures of things I see, to remember them. "Mrs. Cooper says art helps us understand our feelings." She flipped through the pages and my chest tightened. There were drawings of our family, me at a desk working on a laptop, Jessica on her phone, Emma sitting alone. In another picture, Jessica and I stood on opposite sides of the page with Emma in the middle. In yet another, Jessica was a figure in a doorway, turned away. "These are very good, Emma," I said, though the images made me deeply uncomfortable. "You're quite an artist." "I draw what I see," she said simply. "Is that okay?" "Of course it's okay." I pulled her close, kissing the top of her head. "You can always draw whatever you want. And you can always talk to me about anything that's bothering you, okay?" "Okay, Daddy." But I could tell she was holding something back. And instead of pressing, instead of really listening to what my 7-year-old daughter was trying to tell me, I changed the subject back to fractions. Looking back now, I realize Emma had been trying to warn me. She'd seen what I refused to see, that our family was fracturing, and she was documenting it the only way she knew how. That night, after Emma was asleep, I found Jessica in our bedroom, packing clothes into an overnight bag. "Going somewhere?" I asked. "Book club tomorrow, remember? Sarah's hosting at her lake house. We're making a weekend of it." She didn't look at me as she spoke. "That's tomorrow?" I thought book club was Tuesday nights. "We switched it to the weekend. Sarah wanted to try something different." Jessica zipped the bag. "You'll be okay with Emma, right? I left meals in the fridge." "Of course, we'll be fine." I paused. "Jessica, is everything okay? Between us, I mean?" She finally looked at me, and for a moment, I thought she might tell me the truth, whatever that truth was. "We're fine, Michael. I'm just tired. The boutique's been demanding. Maybe we should, I don't know, plan a date night or something? We haven't done that in a while." "Sure. We can talk about it when I get back." She gave me a quick kiss on the forehead, perfunctory, automatic. "I should get some sleep. Early morning tomorrow." She went to the guest room, where she'd been sleeping for the past month. "Better sleep," she'd said. "No snoring to wake me up." I lay alone in our king-size bed, staring at the ceiling, and wondered when exactly my wife had become a stranger. The night I came home early and found Blake Richardson in my house was the night everything started to unravel, though I didn't realize it at the time. It was a Friday in late July, unseasonably cool for summer. I'd left work at 6 p.m., early for me, planning to surprise Jessica and Emma with takeout from their favorite Italian restaurant. I'd been thinking about what Emma said about Jessica being unhappy, and I was determined to make more of an effort. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed an unfamiliar BMW parked on the street. My first thought was that one of the neighbors had guests. But when I opened the front door, I heard laughter from the living room. Jessica's laugh, light and genuine in a way I hadn't heard in months. And a man's voice I recognized. Blake Richardson sat on our couch, wineglass in hand, his laptop open on the coffee table. Jessica sat across from him in the armchair, also holding wine, her cheeks flushed in a way that might have been from alcohol or something else entirely. Emma was asleep on the other end of the couch, curled up under a blanket. "Michael!" Jessica's eyes widened when she saw me. "I didn't expect you home so early." "Clearly." I set down the bag of food, my gaze moving between Jessica and Blake. "What's going on here?" "We're working on the expansion plan," Jessica said quickly. "Blake brought over some projections and financial models." I looked at the coffee table. 2 wine glasses, nearly empty, a bottle with about a third left. The laptop showed what looked like a spreadsheet, but the numbers seemed blurry from where I stood. "At 9 p.m. on a Friday?" I tried to keep my voice level, aware that Emma was sleeping nearby. "This couldn't wait until business hours?" Blake stood up, setting down his wine glass with careful precision. "My fault, Michael. My wife took the kids to her mother's for the weekend, and I figured I'd get some work done. Jessica mentioned she was free, so..." He gestured vaguely at the laptop. "Looks more like a party than work." I couldn't keep the edge out of my voice. "Don't start, Michael." Jessica stood up too, crossing her arms. "You work late all the time. You expect me to just sit home alone every night?" "I work late at the office, not entertaining business partners with wine in our living room while our daughter sleeps on the couch." "Entertaining?" Jessica's voice rose. "We're working on a legitimate business expansion. I'm sorry if that doesn't fit your narrow view of how I should spend my time." Blake held up his hands. "Hey, I should probably go. I didn't mean to cause any trouble." He started packing up his laptop. "Jessica, we can finish this discussion next week." "Fine," Jessica said, her eyes still locked on mine. Blake grabbed his jacket and headed for the door. As he passed me, he gave me a look I couldn't quite read. Pity? Amusement? Good night, Michael. Sorry for the intrusion. After he left, the silence in the living room was suffocating. I looked at my wife, really looked at her, and saw a stranger. She'd gotten her hair highlighted recently, was wearing makeup even though she'd supposedly been home all evening. Her blouse was new, or at least I'd never seen it before. How long has this been going on? I asked quietly. How long has what been going on? Blake and I working together? About a year, you know that. That's not what I mean. Then say what you mean, Michael. Her jaw was set, challenging me to accuse her of something I couldn't prove. Are you having an affair? The question hung in the air between us. Emma stirred on the couch, and we both froze, waiting to see if she'd wake up. When her breathing steadied again, Jessica lowered her voice to an angry whisper. How dare you? How dare you accuse me of that when you've barely looked at me in months, when you come home exhausted every night and can barely manage a conversation, when you've made it abundantly clear that your job is more important than this family. That's not fair, isn't it? When was the last time we had an actual conversation, Michael? When was the last time you asked me about my day, my dreams, my feelings? You treat me like a housekeeper and a babysitter, not a partner. That's not true. I've been trying what? Throwing money at the problem? Buying a bigger house? Paying for dance lessons? She laughed bitterly. You think that's what I need? Emma whimpered in her sleep, and I lowered my voice even more. What do you need, Jessica? Tell me, because I clearly don't know anymore. She looked at me for a long moment, and I saw something in her eyes that terrified me. Not anger, not resentment, but resignation. I needed you to fight for me, she said quietly, to notice when I was drowning, to prioritize me over your quarterly sales targets, but it's too late for that now. It's not too late. We can go to counseling. I can change my schedule. No, Michael, some things can't be fixed with a schedule adjustment. She picked up the wine glasses and headed toward the kitchen. I'm tired. I'm going to bed. Jessica, please, let's talk about this. She paused in the doorway, her back to me. There's nothing left to talk about. You should get some sleep too. You have work in the morning. After she left, I sat on the couch next to Emma, watching my daughter sleep. She looked peaceful, innocent, unaware that her world was crumbling around her. I pulled the blanket up higher around her shoulders and noticed her tablet peeking out from under the cushions. She must have been playing games before falling asleep. I pulled it out, intending to put it on the charger. The screen lit up, showing her camera roll. The most recent photo was from tonight, a picture taken at an angle as if she'd been holding the tablet low. It showed Jessica and Blake on the couch, their heads close together over the laptop, both smiling. My stomach dropped. Had Emma been awake? Had she seen them together and felt compelled to document it? I checked the photo metadata. It had been taken at 8:47 p.m., more than an hour ago, which meant Emma had been awake when Blake was here, had witnessed whatever was happening between him and Jessica, and had pretended to be asleep. I looked at my daughter's peaceful face and wondered what else she'd seen. What else she knew that I was too blind to notice. I should have looked through the tablet right then. Should have checked what other photos or videos Emma might have taken. But I was too angry, too hurt, too overwhelmed. Instead, I carried Emma upstairs to her bed, tucked her in, and sat alone in the dark living room, trying to figure out when exactly I'd lost my wife. Mr. Hayes, are you listening? Judge Catherine Walsh's voice pulled me back to the present. I blinked, realizing I'd been lost in memories while Sarah Mitchell had apparently finished her presentation. I'm sorry, Your Honor. Could you repeat the question? Judge Walsh, a woman in her mid-50s with kind but no-nonsense eyes, looked at me with something like sympathy. Ms. Mitchell has finished presenting Mrs. Hayes' petition for primary custody. Your attorney will have a chance to respond, but I wanted to ask if you have anything you'd like to say before we proceed. I looked at James Morrison, my lawyer, who gave me a subtle nod. I stood up, my legs shaky. Your Honor, I'm not going to claim I was a perfect husband or father. I worked long hours. I missed some school events. I probably could have been more emotionally present. My voice cracked slightly, and I paused to steady it. But everything I did was for my family. Every extra hour was so Emma could have a good life, so Jessica could pursue her business dreams. I never stopped loving them. I never stopped trying. Mr. Hayes, According to the records presented, you missed your daughter's dance recital in May. Is that correct? I missed the dress rehearsal, Your Honor. I had mandatory training in Chicago, but I made it to the actual recital. I was in the front row with flowers. I glanced at Jessica, who was staring at her hands. I've made mistakes, but I've never stopped showing up for my daughter. Duly noted. Judge Walsh made a note on her legal pad. Mrs. Hayes, would you like to take the stand? Before Jessica could respond, a small voice cut through the courtroom. Your Honor, may I please show you something? Every head in the courtroom turned to look at Emma, who was standing up in the gallery, her tablet clutched in both hands. Her voice was clear, despite the tremor I could hear beneath it. Judge Walsh looked surprised, but not unkind. What is it you'd like to show me, sweetheart? I have videos on my tablet, Emma's hands were shaking, about Mommy and the truth. The courtroom went silent. I felt like all the air had been sucked out of the room. Jessica had gone pale, her hand gripping the edge of the table so hard her knuckles were white. Sarah Mitchell jumped to her feet. Your Honor, this is highly irregular. We haven't been notified of any evidence. Sit down, counselor. Judge Walsh's voice was firm. She looked at Emma with gentle eyes. Come here, Emma. What's your full name? Emma walked forward, her steps small but determined. Emma Rose Hayes. I'm 7 years old. And you say you have videos? What kind of videos? I made them because I was worried about Mommy and Daddy. I wanted to understand why Mommy was acting different. Emma's voice was stronger now. I figured out how to make videos with my tablet, to remember things. I stared at my daughter, this brave little girl who'd been carrying secrets I didn't even know existed. How long had she been doing this? What had she seen? Judge Walsh held out her hand. May I see? Emma handed over the tablet, and I watched the judge's face as she began to scroll through what was there. Her expression shifted from curious to serious to something harder. Mrs. Hayes, Judge Walsh said slowly, her eyes still on the tablet screen. I think we need to take a look at this evidence. I'm calling a 30-minute recess. As the judge stood and left for her chambers with both lawyers in tow, I turned to Emma. She climbed into the chair next to me and I pulled her close. Emma, baby, what did you record? She looked up at me with those serious brown eyes, and I saw my brave, brilliant daughter who'd been trying to protect me all along. The truth, Daddy, she whispered. I recorded the truth. The 30-minute recess felt endless. I sat in the courthouse hallway with Emma under my arm, both of us silent. Across the corridor, Jessica paced frantically, her heels clicking against tile. Sarah Mitchell whispered urgently beside her, both their faces tight with panic. Daddy? Emma's voice was small. Are you mad at me for making the videos? I pulled her closer. Mad at you? Never, sweetheart. But how long have you been doing this? Since Mommy started acting different, maybe 4 months. She picked at her dress. She said mean things about you when you weren't there, that you didn't love us, that work was more important, but I knew that wasn't true. My throat tightened. Why didn't you tell me? I tried. Remember when I asked about lying, about what unhappy looks like? Tears filled her eyes. But you were always busy. I was scared that if I told you without proof, Mommy would take me away faster. The guilt hit me like a physical blow. My daughter had been trying to warn me for months. James Morrison stepped out from the courtroom. Michael, Judge Walsh is ready, and you need to prepare yourself. What Emma has on that tablet changes everything. Judge Walsh was already seated when we returned, Emma's tablet on the bench before her. I've reviewed preliminary evidence on this device, the judge began. Emma, you stated you made these recordings yourself? Yes, Your Honor. Emma's voice was steady. And who else knows about them? Nobody, ma'am. Just me. Judge Walsh turned to Sarah Mitchell. Counselor, your objection to this evidence is noted and overruled. If a child felt compelled to document behavior concerning her welfare, this court will consider it. She looked at the tablet. This first recording is dated August 15th, 6 weeks ago. She pressed play. The video showed our living room from a high angle, Emma filming from the staircase. Jessica paced with her phone, wearing the blue dress she'd bought in July. Jessica's voice came through clearly. I can't do this anymore, Blake. I can't keep living this lie. My stomach dropped. Blake's voice responded through the phone. You don't have to, babe. Once you're free, we can finally be real partners in business and life. What about the money? Michael controls everything. That's what the divorce is for. Your lawyer said you've got a solid case. Emotional neglect, absence from family. You'll get spousal support. The house, primary custody. Jessica's voice wavered. I feel guilty about Emma. This will devastate her. Kids are resilient. You've been dying in this marriage for years. You gave up art school for him. You deserve something for those wasted years. What happens to us after? Then we'll have everything we've planned. The boutique expansion, our partnership, no more hiding. The video ended. Silence filled the courtroom. Judge Walsh's voice cut through it. Mrs. Hayes, care to explain? Jessica's hands trembled. Your Honor, that's out of context. Blake and I were discussing business. This suggests premeditation of divorce proceedings and financial fraud. That's not out of context, Mrs. Hayes. The judge turned to Emma. Are there other recordings related to the divorce? Emma nodded. Yes, ma'am. There's one where Mommy meets Ms. Mitchell and they plan how to make Daddy look bad. Emma pulled up another video and handed the tablet to Judge Walsh. This one's from July 21st, 4 weeks ago. The recording showed Jessica and Sarah Mitchell at the boutique's back office, legal documents spread between them. Sarah's voice. We need documented patterns of emotional neglect. The more evidence, the stronger our case. That won't be hard, Jessica replied. Michael works 65, 70 hours weekly. He's always exhausted. Good. Document everything. Every late dinner, missed event. We'll need witnesses, friends, neighbors who can testify to his absence. Mrs. Harper next door. She complains about men who don't help with kids. Perfect. Now, regarding assets, his retirement fund is worth approximately $180,000. Can I get half? With the right narrative, we can argue for more. You sacrificed your career for his ambitions. We're targeting $4,000 to $5,000 monthly for spousal support. The house is worth $350,000. We'll argue Emma needs stability, so you retain primary residence. Jessica's voice shifted, uncertain. Sarah, is this really necessary? Making Michael sound like a monster? He's not a bad person, just absent. Sarah's response was sharp. Do you want your freedom? Want to build your business with Blake? You can't have it both ways. Either you commit to this strategy or you walk away with nothing. Long pause. Then Jessica, barely audible. I wish there was another way. There isn't. Not if you want what you deserve. The video ended. Judge Walsh removed her glasses. Ms. Mitchell, did you coach your client to fabricate evidence? Sarah stood, composure cracking. Your Honor, strategic case preparation is fundamental to legal representation. Strategic preparation versus advising evidence fabrication are different things, Counselor. We'll address your conduct separately. The judge turned to Jessica. Mrs. Hayes, anything to say about this recording? Judge Walsh called a 15-minute recess. In the hallway, I knelt before Emma. Sweetheart, how did you know to record all this? I felt something was wrong. Mommy was different, always whispering, always going out. Then she started saying you didn't care about us. Emma's tears flowed. But I knew that wasn't true. You always ask about my day, read me stories, tuck me in. Why not tell me what you heard? I tried. I asked about lying, showed you my drawings. Her voice broke. But you were busy or tired. I got scared that without proof you wouldn't believe me or Mommy would take me away. The weight of her words crushed me. I'm so sorry. I should have listened better. It's okay, Daddy. You're listening now. James Morrison approached. Michael, Judge Walsh will call Jessica to testify. Her credibility is destroyed. We can push for full custody now. I looked at Emma. I want what's best for her, not revenge. What does Emma actually need? James nodded. Let's see how Jessica's testimony goes. When court reconvened, Judge Walsh called Jessica to the stand. My wife looked smaller, defeated. Mrs. Hayes, you're still under oath. I've reviewed 5 recordings. Care to address what we've seen? Jessica glanced at Sarah, then spoke. Your Honor, yes, those are my voice. I've been planning this divorce for months. I won't deny it. Explain the context. I've been unhappy for years, dying inside, feeling invisible. Michael provides financially, but that's not the same as being present. Her voice strengthened. Do you know what it's like to sleep beside someone but feel completely alone? I gave up art school when we married. Michael needed help with expenses while building his career. I told myself I'd go back eventually, but eventually never came. Sarah stood. Your Honor, Mrs. Hayes has suffered emotional neglect for years. Counselor, Mrs. Hayes can speak for herself. Continue. Jessica wiped her eyes. The boutique was supposed to be mine. Something that wasn't just being Michael's wife or Emma's mother. Blake saw me, the real me, not just a housekeeper, but a person with dreams. So you began an affair, Judge Walsh stated. Yes. He made me feel alive, valued my opinions, made me believe I could be more. I felt the sting because there was truth in her words. Mrs. Hayes, I understand marital dissatisfaction, the judge said, but these recordings showed deliberate fraud, manipulation of custody proceedings, and weaponizing your daughter. Justify that. Jessica's composure cracked. I can't. It was wrong. But I felt trapped. Blake said I deserved better. Sarah said this was the only way. They made it sound reasonable, justified. What you deserved or what you wanted? I don't know anymore. Jessica looked at me. I wanted to feel alive again, but I handled it in the worst way. Instead of demanding you listen, I plotted against you. I'm sorry, Michael. Judge Walsh wasn't finished. You tried to use your 7-year-old as a weapon. Explain that. Jessica couldn't meet her eyes. I told myself Emma would adapt, that kids are resilient. Blake said, I don't care what Mr. Richardson said. What does your conscience say? Silence. Then, my conscience says I made an unforgivable mistake. Your Honor? Emma's voice. There's one more important video about Mr. Blake. Jessica's face went pale. Emma, don't. Mrs. Hayes, you'll have your turn. Judge Walsh turned to Emma. What's this about? 2 weeks ago, Mommy and Mr. Blake at the boutique late. I'd fallen asleep in back but woke up and heard them. They didn't know I was there. The video showed the boutique office, 10:47 p.m. Jessica and Blake sat close on a sofa. Blake's voice. Once you get the house and settlement money, we're set. Boutique expansion becomes easy. Our boutique, Jessica said, needing reassurance. Blake laughed. Sure, babe. Look, I'm being honest. The money makes this attractive. My divorce is bleeding me. Your settlement from Michael cushions that significantly. Pause. Jessica's voice changed. Wait. What? We're both getting something out of this. You get freedom from boring Michael. I get a beautiful partner and financial stability. Win-win. You're using me? Jessica stood. I'm destroying my family so you can have money? Blake's tone shifted to placating. Don't be dramatic. You made your choice. Michael's not fighting for you. At least I appreciate what you bring. Looks, business sense, and soon, capital. Get out. Jessica, don't. I said get out. Door slam. Jessica collapsed, sobbing. The courtroom was silent. Jessica stared at Emma, devastated. You saw that? Jessica whispered. Emma nodded. I woke up when Mr. Blake laughed. I knew he was being mean to you. Judge Walsh set down the tablet. Mrs. Hayes, when did you discover Mr. Richardson was using you? That night, 2 weeks ago. I called Sarah, said I couldn't go through with the divorce. Every eye turned to Sarah Mitchell. And what did Ms. Mitchell advise? Jessica's laugh was bitter. She said it was too late, that we'd filed, that backing out would make me look unstable. She convinced me to push through. Judge Walsh looked at Sarah. Counselor, did you encourage your client to continue with proceedings she wanted to stop? Sarah stood slowly. I advised based on legal realities. We'll discuss your conduct with the Bar Association. The judge turned to Jessica. You discovered you were being used, yet proceeded anyway. Why? Because I'd already destroyed everything, Jessica said hollowly. My marriage was over. I'd made sure of that. I thought if I got the house and money, at least I'd have something to show for throwing away my family. She looked at me. I should have just talked to you, demanded counseling. Instead, I let Blake and Sarah convince me burning everything down was the only option. Daddy did try, though, Emma said clearly. 3 months ago. I have that video, too. Emma pulled up one final recording. Our kitchen in May. Me holding purple tulips. My voice. Jessica, I know I haven't been present. Let's go to therapy. Work on us. Jessica's cold response. It's too late for that, Michael. It's never too late if we both try. Please, I love you. I need space. I need to find myself, and I can't do that in this marriage. Then let me help. We can figure this out together. No, I need to do this my way. The video ended with me alone, still holding flowers. Judge Walsh looked from the tablet to us. Mr. Hayes attempted reconciliation. You refused. You'd already decided on divorce before Mr. Richardson's manipulation. Jessica nodded. I'd checked out. Blake just made it easier to justify. The judge removed her glasses. This is one of the most complicated cases I've seen. We're taking a 1-hour recess while I review all 17 recordings and consult legal teams. When we return, I'll make preliminary custody and asset rulings. As the courtroom cleared, I held Emma tight. Across the aisle, Jessica sat with her face in her hands. Our 12-year marriage reduced to 17 video files, and somehow we all had to move forward from here. The 1-hour recess felt endless. James Morrison pulled me into a conference room down the hall. Michael, we have everything we need, he said, spreading documents across the table. Judge Walsh has seen irrefutable evidence of fraud, manipulation, unethical coaching. We can push for primary custody, minimal visitation for Jessica, heavy asset split in your favor. She forfeits spousal support through her own misconduct. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I thought about Emma's face watching her mother break down. What does Emma need? I asked. Not what I deserve. What does our daughter need? James leaned back, studying me. Most clients never ask that question. I'm asking now. Emma needs stability. She needs to know she's safe, that adults won't weaponize her. She needs consistent time with you. You're her anchor. But she also needs a relationship with her mother, assuming Jessica can be trusted. Can she be trusted? That's above my pay grade. That's for therapists and time to answer. A soft knock interrupted us. Jessica stood in the doorway, face blotchy from crying. Sarah Mitchell was nowhere in sight. Can I talk to Michael, alone? James gathered his papers and left. Jessica and I sat across from each other, the same way we'd sat all morning, but this felt different, more final. I fired Sarah, Jessica said without preamble. I should have done it 2 weeks ago when I wanted to stop this, but I was too scared. Okay. Michael, I need you to know, I wasn't trying to hurt you specifically. I was so focused on escaping, on finding myself, that I didn't think about the damage. She twisted her hands. Blake made it sound simple. Sarah framed it as justice. I was desperate enough to believe them. You tried to take Emma from me, I said quietly. Limit me to 2 weekends a month while telling her I didn't love her. Jessica flinched. You're right. I wanted to punish you for all those years I felt invisible. I wanted you to feel as insignificant as I'd felt. The honesty was brutal, but at least it was honest. I should have listened when you tried to tell me you were unhappy, I said. I treated you like a problem that needed a solution, not a partner who needed connection. You did. But I'm an adult, Michael. I should have demanded you listen, should have insisted on counseling or separation, something other than plotting your destruction. She took a shaky breath. Emma shouldn't have had to save us from my mistakes. We sat in heavy silence. What happens now? Jessica finally asked. I don't know, but Emma needs both of us. Not in the same house, not the same way as before, but she needs to know her mother loves her and won't use her as a weapon. I do love her, Jessica's voice broke. I was just so lost that I convinced myself I knew what was best, but she knew the truth all along. She's smarter than both of us. Jessica laughed, but it came out as a sob. Michael, I don't expect forgiveness, but I'm going to ask Judge Walsh to give you primary custody. Emma needs stability. I need time to figure out who I am outside this disaster I created. I stared at her. You're conceding custody? I'm putting Emma first, finally. Jessica wiped her eyes. I'll take whatever visitation the judge thinks appropriate. I'll go to therapy, deal with my issues instead of blaming everyone else. Maybe eventually Emma will trust me again. James knocked. Judge Walsh is ready. The courtroom felt different when we reconvened. The adversarial tension had been replaced by something heavier, shared tragedy rather than opposing sides. Judge Walsh took her seat, her expression grave but not unkind. I've spent the last hour reviewing all evidence, including Emma's recordings and this morning's testimonies. This is one of the most complex cases I've encountered in 30 years on this bench. She looked at Jessica, then me, then Emma in the gallery. We have a marriage that failed due to fault on both sides. Mr. Hayes, you acknowledge emotional absence. Mrs. Hayes, you engaged in calculated deception and fraud. Neither of you is blameless. I felt Emma's eyes on me. However, this court's primary concern is the best interest of the minor child, Emma Hayes. Judge Walsh picked up her notes. The evidence shows Mrs. Hayes attempted to manipulate proceedings and alienate the child from her father. Mr. Hayes has demonstrated acknowledgement of his failings and willingness to change. Most significantly, Emma has shown through her actions who she trusts to protect her. Jessica was crying silently. I'm prepared to make preliminary orders, subject to review in 90 days. Judge Walsh adjusted her glasses. Primary physical custody to Mr. Hayes. Mrs. Hayes receives visitation every other weekend and Wednesday evenings, supervised for 3 months by a court-appointed monitor. Jessica's sharp breath, but no objection. Regarding assets, due to Mrs. Hayes's documented fraud, I cannot award requested spousal support. However, I cannot ignore Mr. Hayes's admission that emotional neglect contributed to marital breakdown. The judge looked at me. Mr. Hayes, what are you requesting for property division? I stood slowly. Your Honor, I'd like to retain the house. Emma needs stability, but I think 60-40 split of other assets is fair. Jessica keeps the boutique free and clear. I don't want to destroy her financially. I want to protect my daughter. Judge Walsh's eyebrows raised. You're requesting 60-40 rather than the 80-20 you're entitled to? Yes, Your Honor. Jessica made terrible choices, but she's still Emma's mother. Emma needs her mom to be stable and healthy. I heard James sigh behind me, but I wasn't interested in revenge. I was interested in Emma having a chance at healthy relationships with both parents. Very well. Assets split 60-40 as Mr. Hayes suggests, with Mr. Hayes retaining the marital home and Mrs. Hayes retaining full boutique ownership. No spousal support. Both parties split Emma's expenses proportional to income. She paused. Additionally, both of you will attend co-parenting counseling, not couples therapy. That ship has sailed, but you need to learn to communicate about Emma without destroying each other. Yes, Your Honor, we said simultaneously. Jessica stood. Your Honor, may I say something? Go ahead. I'd like to request the asset split be 70-30 in Michael's favor, not 60-40. And I'd like my visitation to require 3 months of individual therapy before supervision is lifted. She took a breath. I need professional help. Emma deserves a mother who's doing the work. The courtroom went silent. Judge Walsh studied Jessica. That's remarkably mature, Mrs. Hayes. I'll accept your modifications. 70-30 split and supervised visitation continues until you complete 3 months of regular therapy and your therapist provides written recommendation to this court. Thank you, Your Honor. Judge Walsh turned to Emma. Miss Emma, you've been very patient. Do you have questions about what's going to happen? Emma stood, clutching her elephant. Will I still see Mommy? Yes, sweetheart. Every other weekend and Wednesday evenings. A nice lady will be there to make sure everyone's safe. Okay. Emma's voice was small. Can I say something? Of course. Emma looked at both of us. I don't want Mommy and Daddy to hate each other. I just wanted everyone to tell the truth and stop being sad all the time. The simplicity broke something open in my chest. This wasn't about winning or losing. It was about a little girl who wanted honesty and wanted the hurting to stop. Emma, Judge Walsh said gently, you are one of the bravest people I've ever met. You did something incredibly difficult because you knew it was right. None of this is your fault. I know, Daddy told me that. Good. Now step outside with the bailiff for a few minutes while I finish with your parents. Emma followed the bailiff out, casting one last look back. Once she was gone, Judge Walsh's demeanor hardened. Mr. and Mrs. Hayes, I want to be very clear. That child spent months documenting her mother's deception because she didn't feel safe telling adults what was happening. That is a failure on both your parts. The words landed like blows. Emma will need therapy, probably for years. Children shouldn't be investigators in their own families. They should be children. Her voice was steel. You both created an environment where a 7-year-old felt compelled to gather evidence instead of feeling protected. I strongly recommend family therapy in addition to co-parenting counseling. Yes, Your Honor, we said together. This divorce is granted. Preliminary orders will be formalized within 1 week. You return in 90 days for final review. She looked at us one more time. Don't waste this second chance. That little girl deserves better than what you've given her. She stood, and the courtroom rose with her. It was over. As people filed out, Jessica approached me. Thank you, she said quietly, for not destroying me when you could have. Emma needs you, I replied. Broken and bankrupt doesn't serve anyone. I'm going to do the work, the therapy, all of it. I want to be someone Emma can be proud of. I hope you do. For her sake. Jessica nodded and walked away. I watched her go and felt a complicated mix: anger, sadness, relief, and maybe the beginning of forgiveness. Emma came back in and I picked her up even though she was getting too big. Can we go home, Daddy? Yeah, sweetheart. Let's go home. 6 months later, I stood in the kitchen making pancakes on a Saturday morning in March. Spring sunlight warmed the room that had once felt contaminated by secrets, but now felt like home. Emma sat at the table, coloring a butterfly picture, not recording videos, not gathering evidence, just being 7. Daddy, can we make chocolate chip pancakes? Absolutely, you're in charge of distribution. She giggled and ran over to help. I was struck by how much lighter she seemed. The worried expression had been replaced by something closer to carefree joy. The past 6 months had been an adjustment. I'd negotiated working from home 2 days a week with strict hour boundaries. My boss had been surprisingly supportive. Emma and I had new routines, breakfast together every morning. I walked her to the bus stop, dinner together without phones, homework at the kitchen table, reading before bed, the things I should have been doing all along. Dr. Patricia Reynolds, our family therapist, had helped navigate the transition. Emma's been carrying adult burdens, she'd explained. She needs permission to just be a child, no responsibilities beyond homework and chores, no monitoring adults. Gradually, Emma had relaxed. Nightmares decreased. She'd stopped anxiously asking if I was happy. She'd begun trusting that adults could handle their own problems. Mrs. Harper invited us to her grandson's birthday next weekend, Emma said, placing chocolate chips carefully. Can we go? Of course. That sounds fun, Emma grinned. And Mommy's coming tomorrow for our park day, right? That's right. How do you feel about that? Checking in on feelings had become routine, making sure Emma knew she could talk about anything. Good, I think. Mommy seems different now. Happier? Emma poured syrup. She told me she's painting again, like before she married you. Good news. Jessica was apparently doing the work, therapy, self-reflection, rebuilding her identity. I pulled up to Jessica's apartment complex. She'd downsized significantly, but the building was clean and safe. Emma had her own small bedroom there. Jessica waited outside in a cardigan. She looked different, less polished, more genuine. Shorter hair, less makeup, more herself. Hey, she said as Emma jumped out. Hey, Mommy. Emma hugged her, and Jessica's face lit up. How was the park? So fun. We fed ducks and I swung for like an hour. Emma launched into enthusiastic recap. I grabbed Emma's overnight bag. Court supervision had ended a month ago after Jessica's therapist submitted a glowing progress report. She's been looking forward to this all week, I told Jessica. Me too. Jessica took the bag, then hesitated. Michael, can we talk? Emma, honey, go pick out a movie. I left options on the coffee table. Okay. Emma skipped inside. Once she was gone, Jessica turned to me. I wanted to thank you for the asset split. You could have taken everything. Emma needs you stable. That was practical, not generous. Still, it meant something. She paused. Blake showed up at the boutique last week. My jaw tightened. What did he want? To apologize. He's in Arizona getting divorced, wanted to make amends. Jessica's laugh was bitter. I told him I wasn't interested and to never contact me again. Good. I've been doing a lot of thinking in therapy about responsibility and choices. Jessica met my eyes. Dr. Martinez helped me understand I was seeking external validation instead of building internal worth. Blake, the expansion, even how I framed the divorce, I was trying to prove value by taking from others. I didn't know what to say. Anyway, I'm working on it. Being someone Emma can be proud of, someone I can be proud of, she looked genuine. I'm sorry, Michael. Truly, you deserved better. Emma deserved better. We both made mistakes. I should have made you feel valued instead of assuming a paycheck was enough. Maybe, but my response was still my choice, and it was wrong. She glanced at the building. I should get back to Emma, but thank you for bringing her. Every other Sunday. That's our agreement. I know. I'm just grateful for the chance to rebuild something with her. As I drove away, I thought about how strange it was that the end of our marriage had made us better co-parents. We communicated honestly now, put Emma first, actually listened. Maybe sometimes complete destruction was necessary to rebuild something healthier. Later that night, I tucked Emma into her purple room, decorated with her artwork. The tablet sat on a shelf, unused except for games now. "Daddy?" Emma asked as I pulled up her blanket. "Yes, sweetheart?" "Are you happy now?" The question caught me off guard. "What makes you ask?" "You just seem lighter, like you're not worried all the time." I sat on her bed. "I am happier. Are you happy?" She considered seriously. "Mostly, yeah. I miss having Mommy here all the time, but I like that everyone tells the truth now, and I like that you're home more." "Me too, kiddo." "Daddy? I'm glad I made those videos, even though it was scary, because it made everything better, right?" I chose my words carefully. "You were incredibly brave, but I wish you hadn't had to be. Kids shouldn't have to save their parents. That's supposed to work the other way." "But sometimes kids can help, right? Like reminding you to eat vegetables?" I smiled. "That's different. That's normal helping. What you did, gathering evidence, recording, that was too much responsibility. You should never have been in that position." "I know Dr. Reynolds said my job is just to be a kid now, play and learn and not worry about grown-up stuff." "Exactly right. Can I ask something else?" "Always. Do you still love Mommy?" The inevitable question. I chose carefully. "I love who she was when we met. I hope she finds happiness, but we're better apart. Sometimes people care about each other but aren't good at being married." Emma nodded. "That makes sense. Mrs. Cooper says families come in different shapes. What matters is that people love you." "Your teacher is wise. Do you think you'll ever be friends?" "Maybe someday. Right now we're working on being good co-parents, talking about you, making sure you're happy and healthy. That's most important." Emma yawned. "Okay, Daddy. I'm ready to sleep." "Sweet dreams, Pumpkin." I kissed her forehead. "Daddy?" "Yeah?" "Thank you for listening. For really listening, not just saying uh-huh while looking at your phone." The observation was so precise about my old habits that I almost laughed. "Thank you for teaching me to listen better. I'm still learning, but I'm trying." "I know. That's what matters." I turned off the light and stood in the doorway, watching her settle. This brave, brilliant girl who'd had the courage to expose lies when adults were too tangled to see truth. She'd saved us all. And now she got to just be a kid. As I went downstairs, I thought about Judge Walsh's words. "Don't waste this second chance." I didn't plan to. Every pancake breakfast, park visit, bedtime routine, these were my second chance. Not to be perfect, but to be present. The tablet sat silent on the shelf. The truth had been told, the lies exposed, and somehow we were going to be okay. Not the same as before, not the family we'd been, but maybe something better. Something built on honesty instead of assumptions, communication instead of avoidance, presence instead of paychecks. Emma's voice from upstairs. "Daddy, can we get ice cream tomorrow after school?" "Absolutely. It's a date." And I meant it. Because I'd learned that tomorrow isn't guaranteed, children grow faster than you think, and missed moments never come back. I wasn't going to miss anymore, not if I could help it.